All right, guys, we have an amazing guest today. He is one of the top talent acquisition leaders in the country. He's a TEDx speaker and he is an author all on the job search topics. And his name is Bobby McNeil. He's going to give us his best tips on the job search. So, Bobby, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited about this. Sure.
Yeah, so obviously you are pretty prominent in the job search world. So why don't we go into it? Where do people fall short? What are the do's and don'ts? Give us your best sauce.
Yeah. So just a quick, just brief intro about me, just so people kind of know where I'm coming from. I've been in the recruitment game for about 17 years and worked across a lot of different industries. I've been the agency recruiter. I've been a corporate recruiter. I've had managed teams before. I've been a hiring manager, but I'm also the person working with hiring managers on different requirements. I think the key thing, when you're talking about like what makes candidates stand out, particularly like, in the early phases, is obviously, we could talk about resumes all day, but, your resume is really kind of that document that's like your passport, really into the whole recruitment process. So I think, resume definitely needs to show impact. I think a lot of times people focus a lot on listing, job responsibilities and things like that. And that's great. But that's kind of expected. If you're a software development engineer, we already know that you're coding, but we want to see like impact. We want to see how your work has contributed to the bigger picture. So did you save the company time? The thing that you worked on, the application or feature you worked on, did it increase efficiencies, right? So those are the things that I want to know as a talent acquisition manager, the things other recruiters want to know, and the things that the hiring managers want to know as well, right? Because those are going to be the things that are going to make them be like, oh, I need to talk to that person because they worked on this key project. I can see their deliverables. I can see the impact. So that's going to be key, right? And also just how it's structured as well, right? It has to be digestible. It has to be readable. It has to flow well. If it's kind of all over the place and the formatting isn't quite right, it's going to be very complicated to read. Recruiters, talent acquisition managers, very busy individuals. So we want to make sure we can get to the information that we need as quickly as possible. And also that structure and that format is going to be key. Another thing I'll mention is just, before we move forward, is just communication. You can have all the technical skills in the world, but if you're not able to display some of those non-technical skills as well within the interview process, I think sometimes that could help like allow a candidate to fall short, right? So I always say like the tech skills, are important, right? But those are those non-technical skills that are going to leave more of a lasting impact. Not that the tech skills aren't important, but those non-technical skills like, communication, preparation as well, and just kind of like displaying some analytical reasoning, that's going to go a long way in making a lasting impression.
So Bobby, coming from you, what are hiring leaders actually looking for in 2026?
Yeah, I see a few different topics and trends this year that I'm seeing a lot from hiring managers just across the board, people I'm, connected with. And I think right now, AI is no longer optional. I'm seeing a lot of positions, even non-tech roles, and just even in my function, talking to my peers, every position, whether it's a technical role or a non-technical role, is going to require some AI literacy to some extent. So it's no longer an option in 2026 and beyond. It's becoming more of a baseline skill. As you look across a lot of the different job postings and job listings, there's going to be some AI mention. I think that's going to become a skill set, just like Microsoft Excel or PowerPoint has historically been a skill set for years. So it's not just going to be for tech roles, it's going to be across all functions. And I think knowing how to use it, knowing how to use it is going to be important. Knowing how to use it responsibly is going to be important. Using it efficiently, and just really being able to provide context and clarity around what AI prompts are generating. So I've been advising people I mentor is, even if you're in a non-technical role, like at least learn how to prompt, learn something about prompt engineering, learn the kind of the inner workings of it. You don't need to be a technical whiz, but you need to at least know how to put something into ChatGPT and what it should generate back, and be able to kind of contextualize that. I think that's going to be key. And I think also learning a lot about like the data privacy and the governance around that is going to be key as well, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities where people are going to be looking for people now who not only know how to prompt and know kind of the fundamentals, but know like about the data and the governance and things like that as companies across all industries are looking to implement it in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's going to be a big thing. I think also what I've seen is a lot with like skills based hiring. I've seen that a lot lately where people are really focusing in on the degrees and the education and the theory behind it is great, but understanding how to apply that in real time. So I think there's going to be some real momentum towards skills first hiring and skills based hiring, particularly in the tech industry, which benefits, both parties because you can demonstrate in real time how to code or how to do a particular assessment and really show in real time what you can do. So I think you're going to see a lot more in, going towards showing and proving that you can do those skills that are on your resume. So I think that's going to be key. And I think just a lot of like job requirements, I think are just getting a lot more really focused in on the skills that matter. Yes, you'll see job postings that have, a list of a long laundry list of skills. But from what I'm seeing from a strategy standpoint is, in order to really target that right talent, people are moving more towards the job requirements and really honing in exactly what they're looking for, right? And what the role needs. So I think that's going to shift some doors as well for people. That way they'll have a lot more clarity on what positions they should target and what's being expected of the role.
Okay, now you say skills-based hiring.
hmm
Any skills that you recommend people based on, kind of your knowledge of the industry? What are you
Yeah.
recommending people close to you or people you mentor kind of take a look at right now?
Yeah. Cloud. I think like anything cloud related is going to be key, like cloud computing, cloud storage, cloud infrastructure. I see that as a top skill set, particularly AWS, because AWS is the, most prominent and the most well known. Yeah, there's, companies out there that use other kind of cloud platforms, but AWS is just, has the market with that. So any type of like cloud practitioner certification or anything around the cloud is going to be key. Another thing I'm noticing as well is, I mean, like we just talked about AI, just some sort of AI literacy. Even if you're a non-technical functional practitioner, just any type of AI literacy is going to be key. If you're on more of the tech side, just understanding how it's going to be used, how to develop it. I think a lot of what I'm seeing out in the industry is as we're moving forward to AI being implemented in some way, shape, or form, they're looking for people who have the technical chops to do that, right? So I think that's going to be a key skill set. I mean, LLMs, understanding all of those things and some of the things I mentioned before. Also, I know this is, kind of a little bit more common, but I see a lot of like a data analytics, right? I think that's a skill set that doesn't get talked about as much because it's not like, it's not, the trend like AI or cloud, but I mean, people are looking for talent who can analyze data, like even like, Python or those types of things, that can really take information, put it in a concise way. That way it can help, key business leaders, make key decisions on what's going on in the business, what's going on in, as far as your trajectory for, Q2, Q3, Q4, even down the road. I mean, forecasting for business is going to be key. So data analytics, I see as an important skill set also.
Yeah, and one question I definitely wanted to ask you, which I get a lot, and as a recruiter, companies and people like yourself, they don't come to me for junior roles.
hmm
So a lot of times junior people come to me and say, "Hey, what should I do?" And I really don't know what to tell them. So what are some of your best tips for junior people kind of in that same question on what hiring leaders are looking for in 2026? Like how do they kind of set themselves apart? They might only have a certification or some personal projects. What do you recommend for them?
Yeah, I agree. I think I do have more junior level people come to me in their career just wanting some tips and advice. I mean, I think the key thing I tell them is that willingness to learn, ambition. You got to be able to display those things. You're not expecting a junior level candidate to have a plethora of experience. They don't have that runway in their career yet to have these different scenarios where they can kind of pull from to answer questions in interviews. Obviously, with anybody, we want to know that you have the core skill set, that not only the theory, but you've applied it in some sort of way, whether it's, through an internship or in some sort of a maybe entry level role where you're able to get tactical with it. I think the key thing that, I look for and that even a lot of my peers look for is the communication is going to be key. Being able to, in an articulate way or just at least in a concise way, um, talk about which and how you've applied it. But I think also the key thing is just showing a willingness to learn, showing a willingness to want more. And I think one thing I always tell more junior level talent is have a vision for where you see yourself. I know the where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years question is always asked, but at the junior level, that's we want to know. Like,
Mm.
how have you given any thought to your own career trajectory and things like that? So I think those are the things I look for: just ambition, hunger, core fundamental understanding, being able to talk about tactically, be able to demonstrate it tactically, but also being able to communicate your value to the role and to that skill set, but also like the vision you have for yourself. Have you thought past what you're doing now? And I think that's going to be key in understanding what you're looking to do, but also having that passion and just having that willingness to learn.
Now, you've talked to tens of whatever it is of candidates. Has
Mhm.
Is anything stand out when I say what was like a really good answer that someone said, "Oh, so damn, that's good," or something that kind of really just kind of in your eyes tanked the person? I mean, is there
Yeah.
anything either generally or specifically that stood out that stands out when I ask that question? Sometimes things come right to your brain. What about you?
Yeah, I think when I think about candidates that I think that or people I've talked to that made the kind of like just stood out or like those I never forgot. I would say again, being able to take your career and be able to tell a story about it. And I think that's really what the interview is. We're here. If you made it to an interview, you already had a good resume, you already had the baseline skills. So now tell us about it. And I think the best candidates are able to really communicate and put their career in a communicative way that we can visualize. I think that's going to be key. They know if they were at this current company for 5 years, they can tell me what they've done each and every day for those 5 years without sounding rehearsed, without always looking down at their resume. They're able to do that. They already know what they've done, how they did it, who they worked with. Those are the ones that's always stood out to me, that they can really be able to tell a story. And even when you think about like their past experience on their resume, they're able to articulate that too. Being able to again tell me who you worked with, how you got it done, even some challenges. I'm very impressed by job seekers who can not only tell me about the successes, but they can tell me about the challenges and how they overcame them without me necessarily fronting that question. I think that's going to be key. And I think all of that really ties to just preparation. And I think a lot of times if a candidate just prepares or a job seeker to just prepare a little bit more, just take some time to just prep before an interview. I think that'll go a long way in at least putting you in good proximity or in a good position for a favorable outcome. So, and I can always tell, if someone's prepared the right way, just based on their knowledge of themselves, but also the knowledge of, the company and also the role itself.
Yeah, and that was exactly my next question. A lot of times it's like, hey, make sure something about the company. How do you advise people about that? Is it just read the last couple press releases? Just kind of read the website? Just ChatGPT, give me a basic understanding? Like, what do you tell them to do?
Yeah, so I think how you prepare for the initial recruiter screen is a little bit different than how you prepare for like the hiring manager who's highly technical or even the interview panel itself. I always say, this is just my theory. I know you're a recruiter as well, but I was just something I've learned and always said over the last 16, 17 years is that your easiest interview is going to be with the recruiter. After that, it's going to be I wouldn't say much difficult. It's going to be more challenging because it's like level one, level two, level three, like a video game almost. Right. So I think when you're doing a recruiter interview or you get a recruiter screen, I think those basic, simple things, even though they may not sound very flashy or fancy, I think those go a long way. Know about the company, go to the company's LinkedIn page, maybe just read through that, look at some of the things they do in the community, some of the things they may do around the office or in their industry if they have that information available. It's nothing I don't think it's anything you need to necessarily like memorize, but just comprehend some stuff, take in some things, take a mental note on those things. I always say if you're looking to interview for a tech company, I mean, find out, something they're currently working on is something that's get ready to launch that may have hit the news. Maybe have one or two questions about it just off genuine curiosity. If you're looking to work for a finance company, look at the financials, know how they did Q1 and Q2 and how they did the previous quarter. Nothing that you need to comprehend or nothing you need to memorize. You don't need to memorize the exact percentages, but just have some general knowledge, so it could spark a question you may have, or it could definitely say, hey, I have some insights on that, maybe that's something I can share. So I think those things, just at the surface level, go a long way. I think also, this may be surprising, but just knowing the position you're interviewing for. I know a lot of times that could happen where they're like, oh, what company is this with again? It's like, you should already know that, coming into the interview, what company it is, where it's located. And I would say pull maybe 2 or 3 bullet points from the responsibility section that you've done before, has some experience with, that you can speak on. And also look at like 2 or 3 of the main key requirements and be able to affirm those things with the recruiter while you're screening them. I think those things will go a long way. I'm absolutely a advocate of using AI tools like ChatGPT to help you prepare for the interview. I think it should be used as a supplement to help you prepare, but definitely not as a stand-in with it for you for the interview. So I'm
Sure.
all for that, hey, help me come up with 2 or 3 questions I can ask the recruiter for this type of role. So using those technologies as well, I think go great when interviewing with a recruiter. Now, hiring manager, interview team, I think definitely lean on the insights of your recruiter if you get to that point, on the key things you need to focus on. Obviously, the recruiter's not going to give you the answer. You're the technical mind, you're the technical talent. You got to, go in there and assess correctly and answer those questions, but rely on their guidance, on how to prepare for those things. And those things are probably going to be a little bit more technical, and they're also going to be probably a little bit more scenario-based, behavioral-based questions.
Where do people stumble with you the most? Is it still just the stereotypical, like, no, I don't have any questions? Is it like kind of like you said, they have so many interviews, they say, wait, what company is this again? I don't even know. Is it those type of things, like lack of kind of respect for the process type things?
Yeah, I think, in generally, yeah. I mean, just lack of communication. You just can't talk about what they've been doing every day. You think that's just, this is a conversation. So I'm asking questions because I'm trying to get to know you as a professional. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about the work that you've done. And when you don't have any questions, or you don't, or when you don't have like this ability to kind of communicate what you've done, it kind of comes off like you might not be passionate about what you're doing. Because when you're passionate about what you're doing and you believe in the work you're doing, you could talk about it for hours. So I think that just not being able to communicate and not really giving enough information, I think that could be problematic as well. Also, I just like not knowing just a few things about the position beforehand, and also not having any questions. I always say, yes, this is an interview, and the recruiter or the hiring manager is interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them as well, because you want to make sure that it's a good fit for you, from a job standpoint, but you also want to make sure that it's a good fit for you as an employee, right? So you want to make sure that the company is a good fit for you. And I always tell people to make sure you have some questions to answer, just for your own general curiosity. And if you don't have any questions, it makes it seem like you're just not really curious or interested in the company or the position.
Yeah, that's all good stuff for you guys. But let's pivot to your TED talk. I thought that was really cool. I watched
Yeah.
it when we first connected. What do you go into? It's called Becoming, Not Breaking In.
Not breaking in, but becoming. Yeah.
Okay, I had it
Yeah.
backwards.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
so want to give us some bullet points? I'll have the link there. It's on YouTube. Has a ton of views, but you can watch that after you watch this as well. So want to give us some bullet points that you shared on that?
Yeah, really the motivation behind it, really, it all spoke about confidence, in your career, not only as a professional but as a person. And it really focused on alignment, and just having this mindset of long-term growth. It throughout, my career, particularly when I was in the tech industry, I heard the term breaking in a lot. I always, would hear people when I would coach them, they always talk about that. I'm trying to break into tech. I'm trying to break into the industry. And, I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, like breaking in kind of puts people in survival mode. I think I had a funny phrase, and there's like, when I hear the term breaking in, I think about ski mask and crowbars, not resumes and LinkedIn profiles. And that's immediately what I thought about. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to put that in there. And it got a positive response. But I just, when I hear that, that type of language, in my opinion, over the years, talking to numerous people and trying to help people, access opportunity, I just found that language just creates a lot of pressure, but also it creates a lot of imposter syndrome, and not feeling like you belong in the spaces that you want to gain access to, or you may already be in. And and shifting language and our mindset to more of a language and mindset of becoming, it shifts the focus to more like on growth and contribution and just alignment with where you want to go next. I've done a lot of things in my career, and I'm very proud of what I've done. A lot of different industries, have worked my way up to and as well, and done a lot of great things that are aligned to my career outside of recruiting and talent acquisition. I've been very blessed, but I never felt like I was breaking into anything. Right.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and for me, if I had that mindset and I spoke that way, I would most likely probably get syndrome, because once I get there, oh, well, I just got here by the skin of my teeth. And then you have get one email from a client or customer that might not be happy, or that pitch doesn't go the right way in the meeting. Then, oh, well, see, that's why I'm not supposed to be here anyway. I just never had that mindset. And the people that I always looked up to, they didn't have that mindset either. Their careers weren't built off of, what's the word I'm looking for? Their careers weren't built off force. It wasn't. And some of the people I look up to the most, they weren't necessarily chasing entry. They were developing as they went along, and they were aligned with what they wanted to do. So because they had alignment, they were quite often in proximity for where doors can open gracefully, and they didn't have to, kick their way in. So that was just my concept with that. And I turned it to a TED talk. I might do some more content around that in the future, but I know it's a common term. It's on
Yeah.
t-shirts, it's everywhere.
The last few years, it's like breaking in.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're doing a TED talk, when you're getting ready to do it, it's having an idea that's worth sharing, right? And that's quite simply what it was. It was an idea worth sharing. I'm not here to say, hey, Bobby said you shouldn't say breaking in anymore. If you want to, that's fine. I'm not going to put you in jail for that, right? But if it created some dialogue and it made people kind of think, kind of pause for a second and think a little bit more about the language they use and how they're thinking about things, then I think it was a success. Right. So I'm in no way trying to make people stop saying it. If you want to keep saying it, that's cool. But I at least want to spark some dialogue and conversations.
Yeah, the boot camps love that language. Really do. But one thing we talked about before was kind of some of your best tips as far as non-technical
Mhm.
skills that all tech people should be kind of conveying on some of these interviews, especially to someone like yourself. What are some of your best kind of things as far as that goes, non-tech skills?
Yeah, yeah. I think the first thing that I really think comes to mind is, we kind of touched on it already, is that communication piece. I can't stress that enough. I think that, to me, that's like the non-technical skill or soft skill or intangible that's just like prime. I've seen so many people have technical skills sharp, but they're not able to communicate effectively. And that causes, issues when you're trying to advocate for an idea, or you're trying to work across the aisle with other functional areas or other functional groups, right? So I actually mentioned this in a chapter in my book, but I think just the communication skills is going to be key, right? Now that doesn't mean you have to speak perfectly or you have to be a TEDx speaker or anything like that. It's just being able to effectively communicate an idea, being able to illustrate, being able to paint a picture, and be able to, if you're very technical, being able to convey ideas to non-technical people or teammates where it can make sense to them and vice versa, right? So I think that's going to be a key in an interview that'll make you stand out. But also, once you get that opportunity that you want, it's just going to continue to elevate you, right? So I think that's like a top tier non-technical skill. Problem solving, data analytics, data analysis, being able to take information, being able to take that and put it in a way that it makes sense for business leaders to solve key problems and make sound decisions. I don't think that gets talked about nearly enough. And I know I've mentioned it before, but I think that's one of those skill sets that doesn't get a lot of attention but can go a long way. And I know a lot of leaders, whether they're in the C-suite, directors, senior directors, they're busy with strategy. They're busy with all these different things. There's a lot of value on somebody on a team that can take complex data, numerical information, and put it in a way, analyze it and put it in a way that can make sense so people can make sound decisions. So that's key as well. Also leadership. And I think a lot of times people get leadership and management kind of confused, because you can be a leader. You can 100% be a leader without a management title. You can 100% be a leader without a leadership title. So leadership, being able to influence, being able to have accountability, being able to get everybody around an idea, right? And lead the charge, right? I think a lot of times particularly when it comes to like more junior candidates or mid-career candidates, they don't think they're leaders, but you helped spearhead a project and you saw that project through. You were able to pitch an idea or an improvement to your leaders, and you were able to get their buy-in, and then you're able to also orchestrate and work with others as the captain of that idea to bring it to fruition. So I think leadership is going to be key. I think, the technical skills, definitely get you hired, right? If you got them and you're sharp, but it's going to be those non-technical skills, I'm telling you, that's going to help you last and help you elevate. I'm a witness of that as well. Before I became a people manager or, a talent acquisition manager who was, really in these rooms with these, executives and senior directors, I was all about, hey, if I just got my recruitment skills down, I'm good. That was great. And those are definitely great, but being able to show those leadership skills will take you a long way and have you have a long tenure career.
Yeah, I think that's all great advice because obviously, like at the high end, like we're talking about AWS, these jobs pay 2K,
Mhm.
sometimes more, sometimes stock options or equity, depending on the company. They're not going
Mhm.
to pay you that to just sit in a corner. And if
Right.
something good or bad is happening, you're going to have to maybe describe that technical situation to a non-technical stakeholder. So, like, the communication is gonna be the first thing to be like, "What are we paying this guy for?" Like, he can't even explain what the hell's going on. I know we're losing money, but he can't even tell me so, I think that is again, once you get those higher levels, that's what they're expecting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and, one thing I definitely wanna talk to you because you also have a book too, like,
Yeah.
this guy's pretty out there, with, his media, so I'm way behind him right there. So, why don't we talk about your book, maybe some key points, we'll have, a link to get it for everyone as well in the show
Mhm.
notes. Let's hear about it, though.
Yeah. So the title of the book is Cracking the Code. Well, the full title is Cracking the Code 10 Possible Reasons You Didn't Get the Job. And it's nicknamed the career book for the culture. And it kind of it's a twofold meaning. One, there's a lot of references to the African American experience in
Mhm.
careers. And there's a lot of like metaphors and things like that that will resonate. But also, it is a book where people from other cultures and backgrounds can 100% connect, right? And when I wanted to write this book, I wanted to write a career book or a career advice book that wasn't going to talk over people's heads. So that's the second piece. It's not going to talk over people's heads, but it's not going to dumb it down, but it's going to put it right in the middle where you'll be able to understand and think critically, right? And I didn't want to write a career book where there was a lot of this like HR jargon or industry jargon that only you and myself would know, right? So that's why it's also named a career book for the culture as well, because it's just for people in general to be able to connect and really be able to take tangible advice and really be able to apply it immediately, right? Also, there's a lot of stories in this as well. So the book was really born really from real conversations with real people. So it's somewhat autobiographical. There's some stories in there about me. There's some stories in there about other people along my journey that I got permission to share. So
Mm.
that's another reason why it has that nickname as well. But what it does, it really goes across the 10 common things or the 10 most common things that I've noticed throughout my career where, job seekers and candidates tend to fall, right, and tend to stumble. So the way the chapters are structured is that, I obviously give you a story so we can have that connection and you can see yourself in those stories. But then also there's some data in there as well. And then from there, we talk about practical tips and how to apply them. So it talks about, resume anxiety. It talks about interview frustration and kind of get over those hurdles and things like that. It also talks about a lot of career uncertainty amongst a lot of people, particularly in today's, evolving job market. It really helps the readers move through all these various scenarios and situations with a lot more clarity instead of confusion. That's at a high level what the book is, and it's available everywhere books are sold online. Yeah.
And I think that's so good for tech people to understand because a lot of times, they have to there's your tech skills and then your job search skills.
Yeah.
They're 2 different things. You can't just say again, the people that were lazy on the interview and just said, "Wait, what's your company?" It's those little things that get you the job. And I would say it's not the most technical person. It's not the best AWS guy is not making the most money probably. It's the guy that
Mhm.
kind of played these games, also did the job game the best. So,
Exactly.
those
Mhm.
skills are so vital, and I think they're a lot of times overlooked. So the tech skills are super important, but these
Mhm.
are just as important in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the chapters was titled "Back to the Basics: Wants versus Needs," and in that chapter, I tie into, we're talking about the requirements. And one of the key reasons is that you probably just didn't meet the basic job requirements, which those are real. But I give you the why. I give you why the job requirements are the requirements and why they're so critical to the business. Because a lot of times a job seeker will see a job application. Well, why do I need to have 5 years of experience in AWS cloud? Or why do I need to have these types of things? And I pull the curtain back slightly so you understand why certain things are. So this book kind of reverse engineers it a little bit, but in a very human way, to give you the why behind things, why it's important to show up this way in the interview prepared, why the job requirements are the requirements, and all those different things. So the book is loaded, man. It's a lot of good stuff, and I'm not just saying it because I'm the author. I read it one night once it first dropped, and I was like, man, this is a good book. And I wasn't not just because I read it. I was like, if I was a job seeker right now, and I really wanted a book that I could get some real actionable tips and advice, get some data to back it up, but also just kind of get some real stories and some real truth about people who have overcome, right? This is the book. This is the book I would get for sure. Because like I said, it doesn't talk over your head, but none of the information is dumbed down. But we meet you right in the middle for you to critically think. And like I said, that's another reason why it's the career book for the culture. Essentially, it's the career book for the people.
Yeah, and I think it's a great time for something like that because, I mean, I know people that once the kind of that COVID hiring rush
Mhm.
kind of start and it fell
Yeah.
quickly,
Mhm.
and some of those people, they hadn't looked for a job since 2015, and now they don't know what to do, and they're
Mhm.
using 2015 tactics in a 2026 world,
Mhm.
and, if they could incorporate some of these tactics, it would help them immensely because they're just going about things the wrong way, and,
Mhm.
I know some people that have been out of work for 2, 3 years at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We even talk about networking in the book and how that's so powerful, no matter if you're introvert or extrovert. And it goes beyond applying for jobs. Yes, you have to do that. And like I said earlier, the resume is really your passport into that, but also getting out there and really putting yourself in front of people you who can help you, but also who you can help as well. So that's what the networking chapter was all about. I give a full story about a conference that I went to in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was basically a year and a half kind of beginning to end, but I put it, obviously in a handful of pages. But it was a guy that I met at a conference in Atlanta, and then a year and a half later, there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened between that year and a half time. But a year and a half later, I was able to give him a job offer for an opportunity. A year and a half before, I didn't have a job opportunity for him. But there was a whole bunch of things that happened in that story between me and him, like the value exchange. I would give him some value, he would give me some value, and we would pour into each other. It wasn't all about me, but it wasn't all about him. And that's what networking is. It's a value exchange. And that's what the name of the chapter. And a year and a half later, he was a person that came top of mind when I had an opportunity that I felt was fitting for him because I got to know him in a real way.
Wow, and
Yeah.
and again, those people that have been out of work 2, 3 years,
Hmm.
listen, you just send a resume to a pile and someone like
Hmm.
you sees they've been out of work that long, good luck.
Yeah.
But if they connect with you maybe in a human way at a networking event, say,
Hmm.
"Okay, well, hey, it's a tough market. Let me try to help this person." And that's
Yeah.
amazing advice. Anything else you wanna leave the job seekers, junior, senior, anything else you feel relevant to share with us before we go?
I just want to say thank you to you because having me on the podcast and everything like that. Appreciate it. I think the number one thing I would say is we keep going back to AI, but I think I learned something about it. It's not going anywhere. Like learn something about it, whether you're a software engineer or you're an accountant or you're in the talent acquisition space like you and I. Like learn something about it. It's here. You don't have to be a technical whiz if you want to do that, that's great. And you have those aspirations to do that, that's great. But at least you learn how to prompt, use it, understand, kind of the right way to use it. I think that's going to be big for everybody. That's what I would say. Like learn some AI, get some AI literacy and also I would say, I think networking, like I know we just talked about it, but I think networking is key. Go outside, meet people. And even if something doesn't happen right now from a network, even if it doesn't happen immediately, be patient because it's a long game. And I'll never forget that it's not always about what people can do for you. Sometimes it is what you can do for other people. So those are the two really things I would say. Network because the job market is crazy. Who is important, but also who knows you is going to be key, and get some sort of AI literacy, no matter who you are.
Yeah, there you go. Right from a guy that
Yeah.
hires a ton of people and has hired a ton of people throughout his career. So, well, Bobby, hey, thanks so much for coming on, man. I'm glad we made this
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Thank you.
we will have links to Bobby's TED Talk and his book in the show notes. And you guys should definitely check it out. That was the first thing I looked at when we first connected was the TED Talk. It was really great. So take a look at that. Check out the book. And should they connect with you on LinkedIn or where should they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just put in Bobby McNeil. I'm there. I'm also Instagram. I'm Bobby McNeil Jr. One word. I post a lot of things there, a lot of content also. And LinkedIn, I post job opportunities as well, and just other content also. So those would be the two, major platforms to reach me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again. And we'll catch you guys next time.